Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
And we now call the special meeting of the, almost said Cumberland County Board of Education. But
Pretty close.
the special meeting of the Cumberland County Board of Commissioners to order. The purpose of this meeting is to hear from citizens regarding the proposed 2020 budget.
Madam Chair, she asked you to pull your microphone up.
Pull my microphone. You all know what I said. I don't have to say it again. But the meeting will now come to order. Thank you so much for joining us tonight for this meeting. I'm going to call on Vice Chairman Faircloth to provide the invocation and lead the Pledge of Allegiance after the prayer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Let's all stand while we honor God and country. Almighty God, we invoke your presence with us tonight. We ask that you be with each of us as we deliberate the business of this great county. Keep us all safe as we travel from this place, and we ask these things in your name. Amen.
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 I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm going to ask County Manager Amy Cannon to explain our procedures.
Yes, ma'am. Thank
For
you,
this
Madam
year.
Chair and Commissioners. This evening, we're assembled for our annual public hearing on the fiscal year 2020 budget. This is an opportunity for the board to hear from citizens about the recommended budget. The public comment policy and guidelines apply this evening, so I'd like to share those parameters. Each speaker will have a maximum of 3 minutes to make remarks. No time may be yielded to another speaker. We ask that speakers will address the board from the lectern and begin their remarks by stating their name and address. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right. Thank you. The public hearing is now open. How many speakers do we have?
Madam Chair and Commissioners, we have a total of 12 speakers this evening.
All right.
Our first speaker is Mr. Brian Tyler.
Good evening.
Madam Chair, Council, staff, thank you.
I'll take just a moment tonight, and I'm here on my capacity as the chairman of the Board of Trustees for the library, of course. And I'll just say that the Board of Trustees did review the proposed budget, and we approve it, you know, as to the extent that we can, and we certainly would encourage you to approve it as so. We thank you also, though, for recognizing the need of the library and continuing to fund the library. We also thank the staff, because I can't imagine what this job would be like every year, trying to make a dollar out of about 50 cents or so. The need is always great, I know that. And I'll just leave you with just a simple quote tonight that I think is very apt for this purpose. And that's, it was a quote by Andrew Carnegie, and he spoke this over a century ago when he said, "A library will outrank any other one thing a community can do to benefit its people. It is a never-failing spring in the desert." And you do very wisely fund your library. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Ms. Tamika Kelly, followed by Ms. Denise Montgomery.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Tamika Walker Kelly, parent and educator here at Cumberland County. I come before you tonight along with my fellow educators to ask that you fully fund the budget request for Cumberland County Schools. We as educators understand the situation here. We've marched about it twice. We know that the state's unwillingness to fund public education properly places a burden on local government. However, our students and our schools can't wait. The needs are too great. This budget proposal requests more student service personnel such as school counselors, nurses, psychologists, and social workers because we believe in schools that we take care of the whole child. This budget also requests more funding for special education and ELL positions, English language learners positions, to support our students who are differently abled. This budget also requests more funding for our security program and more technology, which is important to keep our students and our staff safe in this day and time. We are not here just to ask for more money. We are asking for a public commitment towards making our schools here better places for all. We know that we all care about our students, and it is going to take all of us to make progress happen. I urge you to fully fund the Cumberland County Schools budget request. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kelly.
Our next speaker is Ms. Denise Montgomery, followed by Mr. Mark Rowe.
Hello, my name is Denise Montgomery, and I'm just asking as far as the budget. It just seems as though every time different, like for the community or for the schools and that needing money, it just seems like the property taxes are the first thing to go up. And I'm just asking in terms of the county looking at other areas other than just through taxes of obtaining money. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Mr. Mark Crow, followed by Mr. Greg West.
Good evening. My name is Mark Crow. I am an educator here in Cumberland County for 5 years. I've taught in the same high school. Next year I'll be promoted to middle school. Feel free to ask me in October if I feel the same. So, what I just wanted to share one thing about my experiences of teaching in the high school. Students come into the classroom, sweat pouring down, they're holding their stomach, they're not obviously not feeling good. I said, Mr. Crow, can I go see the nurse? And I have to respond to him, no, I'm sorry, it's not Tuesday. The nurse is only there 1 day a week. Well, somebody really needs a nurse, so they go get the first responder who happens to be an English teacher. Pull the English teacher out of her classroom to come take care of this because we don't have a nurse on campus. I'd ask you to fund the request so that we can get a nurse in every school. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Mr. Greg West, followed by Ms. Carol Stubbs.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm Greg West, 506 Charleston Place, and I'm chairman of the Budget and Finance Committee on the Board of Education. And I have the honor to advocate on behalf of 50,415 children, 6,046 full-time employees, and 1,435 part-time employees of the Cumberland County School System. The school budget that was presented to you this year was the most thorough and business-minded budget I've seen in 17 years of public service. We knew that an $8.9 million ask was a bold ask of you, and we provided the justification for that ask. The request wasn't taken lightly, and in fact, it represents a phased-in approach to many of our chronic shortages. Much focus has been made on our desire to invest in the whole child. Our children desperately need us to increase the number of social workers, counselors, and school nurses. We are well below national averages and below all of our peer districts in North Carolina. Our children deserve better. Some say that the system doesn't need the money because it is not all going directly to the classroom. I would contend that for many of our students, their problems outside the classroom are bigger than any problems inside the classroom. We're trying to do right by our students and this county. Some say this money is not targeted to the low-performing schools. Well, much of it will be targeted to low-performing students, wherever they are, because we cannot be a success as a school system until all of our children are successful. You now have the responsibility to do what is right for our children and our county. However, it cannot be an all-or-nothing approach. Over 1/3 of our request, around $3.2 million, is based on the projected legislative impact on our budget such as state salary increases and class size phase-in requirements. We will likely have to make cuts elsewhere if you do not make a serious attempt to fund our request. In past budget negotiations, we haven't always acted like partners when it comes to funding our public schools. Yet 9 of us are elected to do what's right by our students, their parents, and your constituents. We are elected to recommend to you what Cumberland County needs to do right by her children. We look forward to working together on this budget request and future funding agreements. We need millions more, not just a few $100,000, to do what is morally right by our children, but we are at your mercy. Only you can increase our local funding. So on behalf of the 50,415 children in Cumberland County schools, please fully fund our 2019-2020 budget request. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Ms. Carol Stubbs, followed by Carmella Mckellar Smith.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Councilman. On behalf, my name is Carol Stubbs. I'm at 5304 Sonnet Court, Fayetteville, North Carolina. I am the local president of Cumberland County Association of Educators. On behalf of my educators, classified and certified, we stand and ask for your support for the budget. We have many students that need the help that we ask for. My constituent vice president has said so. Our Board of Education Council has said so. We need the help for the budget because we have a lot of students that need the support. We have guidance counselors that work at 3 or 4 schools. That's not fair. We don't know what happened to our children if they go one day here and one day there. So we need a guidance counselor to be in every school that we ask for the budget to do. We even ask, we have 75% of our students are on free lunch and reduced lunch. We need to help our children be the whole children, to stand out in the world with the rest of the world, to be better citizens and educators in this world. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stubbs.
Our next speaker is Ms. Carmella Mckellar Smith, followed by Richard Van Wy.
Good evening. My name is Carmella Mckellar Smith. I live at 6840 Thames Drive, Fayetteville, North Carolina. I'm here tonight at the invitation of the robocall that came in last night through the Cumberland County school system. The irony in the fact that we didn't have a public forum on the $509 million budget proposal solicited by the school system at the school system does not escape me. That irony does not escape me at all. I've worked in government, been politically active, and have engaged in my share of public forum and protests, but never has it been incited by an elected official or government entity. The decision of the school board to solicit the community through robocalls to attend this meeting with the implication of protesting your proposed budget is at best a questionable decision. It also reflects a lack of respect towards this body and interlocal governmental collaboration. When and where is it appropriate for one governmental entity to incite the public to protest the decisions of another governmental entity? At minimum, this is a slippery slope and degenerative of the democratic process, but it's also a breach of ethics. We have a right to expect better. So let's talk budget. Yes, 16 state-identified low-performing school, majority population Black and/or low-income students. According to NCDPI, 45% of our Black students tested were found to be 45% of our Black students tested were found to be proficient. That's 55% not proficient in their subject areas, but not $1 of resources were specifically allocated to these schools, classrooms, programs, or initiatives to address this crisis of the Black students in our Cumberland County school budget. We won't allow our children to be made invisible. They matter and they can learn. Madam Chair, it was stated that the budget shows that education is not a priority for you commissioners. By this same logic, the lack of resource allocation to these low-performing schools, to these poor and Black children, would indicate that they are not a priority for our Board of Education either. I support fully funding our school system, but I also recognize that if we don't do something different, the children in these schools will continue to suffer. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Mckellar. Next.
Our next speaker is Mr. Richard Van Wy, followed by Liza Dennis, or Dennis, I'm sorry.
Good evening. My name is Richard Van Wy, 1413 Paisley Avenue. Mr. Adams, I believe I heard you on the radio the other day. Okay, and whoever the lady was with you, all right, good speech. That being said, I fully support education also, but not one person have I heard say it in here, the fact that the county did not spend all of the money they got last year. I'm being told that they have a surplus that's not earmarked for anything. I've got neighboring counties with fellow students over there that apparently they can get their kids tablets, all right? We spend more money than they do. How are they affording it? Then we can't, all right? And then I've got 10 grandkids, and you're still going to come around and ask me for more paper, pens, pencils, and whatever else to go into the classroom. How about taking that slush fund and put all that stuff in the classrooms? Or let's try something unique. Give the teachers a $1,000 bonus. Thank you.
Thank you,
Our
Mr.
next
Benoit.
speaker, I'm sorry. Our next speaker is Ms. Liza Dennis.
Liza
followed by
Dennis.
Leslie Craig.
I'm Liza Dennis, and I live at 6424 Chartley Drive, and I'm currently an employee here at Cumberland County Schools. I drive a school bus, and I work in the school system as a TA. And I come to you as a parent first because I am a bereaved parent of a student that passed away in the school system in Alamance County. My son collapsed in gym. He died on the gym floor in 2011. And I come to you that you add to the budget, and that Cumberland County will add that we have more CPR and first aid training in our school system. They will also have defibrillators more available for our students, because in this day and age, we don't know what students go through. When will one collapse? I know mine collapsed during PE class and did not survive. His chances of survival would have been greater if the assistant there and all teachers in the school system had CPR and first aid. I understand the nursing shortage, the social work shortage. I'm sorry. I understand all that, and I support that. I support our county. I lived here before. I moved away and came back. I grew up here. I'm a foster child survivor, and I've done a lot with my life, and I look forward to doing a lot more in other children's lives. But I hate to be another parent telling another parent, I'm sorry and welcome to my bereaved club, because we did not have the medical attention that your student needed in our school system. When my son died, he was in PE class. All his friends testified to the fact that he threw up. There was no teacher around to see this. There was a sub. She didn't know what to do. He went and got water. Didn't help him. So he collapsed, and he lost his bodily functions on the gym floor. So we all know that that's when you pass. He was 14 years old, 1 month and 8 days. His name was Jeremy Carter. He was also a student here in Cumberland County Schools at Hope Mills Middle, played football with Coach Burke before we moved. And I just see so many things that kids can go through. We had an emergency on one of our school buses this year. I think all school bus drivers should have first aid and CPR as well. We are all first responders. There are no monitors on the bus. We know they're not going to give us none. So we need to learn the facts about first aid and CPR, and I hope that if you do give us the budget, that Cumberland County Schools will invest some of that budget in making more progress and adding more defibrillators, more nurses, more training, more emergency trainings to our school system, and take into consideration that the loss of a child, it could have been any of y'all. It's me tonight. It's me standing before you. My son is gone. He would have been 22. So it could be any of y'all. And so when y'all consider the budget and Cumberland County considers how they're going to spend that budget, I truly hope that they train us better in medical conditions to deal with the students so that none of you guys have to join my club. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much.
Our next speaker is Leslie Gregg, followed by Gerard Guevara.
Craig. I think we all agree that schools are important for continued prosperity and growth of Cumberland County, but to get there, we have to focus on building a solid and resilient community, and that starts in our schools. Society is not what it used to be. When I first started teaching, I have been in Cumberland County schools for 22 years, the last 18 of them at the middle school level in Grace Creek. And just the changes alone in the Grays Creek section are mind-boggling, because we started out as a very small rural community and it has exploded. We educators are facing challenges we've never really faced before. Technology is a wonderful thing, but it's also a double-edged sword, because employers say they want people who are technologically proficient in everything, but they also want people with soft skills. And a lot of our kids are growing up not learning those soft skills, not learning how to control their emotions, not learning how to work with others. Kids can't learn if they don't feel safe. Kids can't learn if they're operating in survival mode. The opioid epidemic has hit this county as it's hit counties across the entire country. Shattered families. Ongoing war against terrorism has taken its toll on our whole community. There are stressed families, economic struggles. Weather events have played a major role in the ongoing trauma that a lot of families have had to deal with. There's an increasing number of kids who are homeless. Hunger continues to be an issue. There are parts of Cumberland County that I would refer to as a food desert because they don't have access to be able to get healthy food. All they can do is go to the local Quick Stops. And it's not, all these problems reflect society at large, and it's not confined to just certain attendance areas. Kids under stress cannot learn. A lot of them act out in various ways. They end up in ISS. I was an ISS teacher last year, and I experienced firsthand what these kids go through and the ways that they have learned to think and learned to operate. It may work for them on one level, but it's not working for them on another level in terms of being at school ready to learn. They've got so much else going on in their lives. Some of them are essentially the adult in their family because their parent is impaired or whatever. And so they need so much. They need one-on-one. They need physical needs met. They need emotional needs met. Families need support. We need social workers, full-time counselors, and school nurses at all grade levels. Then we will have our resilient and strong schools.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Mr. Gerard Guevara, followed by our last speaker, Mr. Steve McRae.
Good evening. My name is Gerhard Guevara. My address is 1131 Hoke Loop Road, Fayetteville, North Carolina. I'm a committee member for the Cumberland County Schools District PTA. I'm also a parent of 4 children in Cumberland County Schools, 2 in high school, 1 in middle school, and 1 in elementary school. I'm also a Fort Bragg School Liaison Officer. We represent, inform, and assist command for school-related issues in the county and on post K through 12. I would like to address and justify the need and importance of fully funding additional school social workers, counselors, and nurses. Cumberland County Schools has the greatest number and percentage of military-connected children. There are approximately over 9,500 military-connected children in Cumberland County Schools at about 19% of the total population. There is always a great need for school social workers, counselors, and nurses. Particularly for military-connected children, they face significant challenges growing up in a military family lifestyle. These challenges include moves to and from Fort Bragg, multiple parental deployments, and potential mental and physical injuries to the parents that affect the family. School social workers, counselors, nurses help provide resilience. Resilience helps military children cope with adversity, perform better in stressful situations, and thrive within their schools and military lifestyle. Through the development of comprehensive programs, school social workers, counselors, and nurses meet with students in small and large group capacities. They create relationships that no other adult in the school can create and help social and academic success. We have seen throughout the country and on the news an increase of many types of crises. Social workers, counselors, and nurses help reduce these incidences. Some statistics for Cumberland County Schools. There have been 1,272 crisis counseling sessions between August and February, according to the guidance counselor coordinator. These include self-harm, bullying, and child abuse. And there have been 1,496 peer meditations. Without these interventions, they could have potentially led to conflict between students. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our last speaker is Mr. Steve McRae.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Steve McRae, and I live at 202 Stedman Street, Fayetteville, North Carolina. I appreciate the services that each one of you do for our community. Appreciate the opportunity to speak to you, and I speak as a parent of 3 children in the Cumberland County school system. We have children at the elementary school age, the middle school age, as well as the high school age. My family relocated to Cumberland County approximately 3 years ago, and our decision to move to Cumberland County was in part informed by our perception of Cumberland County as a very dynamic, progressive, up-and-coming place to live, and that impression was certainly formed in very large part by Cumberland County's dedication and support of its strong public school system. I can tell you from personal experience that individuals considering moving or relocating to this community evaluate it based in part on the community's support of its public education system. And I suspect anecdotally that businesses conduct the same type of evaluation when they're deciding where to relocate. Social workers, counselors, and nurses all strike me as core functions of the Cumberland County school system and certainly as appropriate beneficiaries of this increased budgetary ask. I noted in a recent letter in the Fayetteville Observer that a letter writer wrote that he quoted John Fitzgerald Kennedy in noting that a rising tide lifts all ships, or lifts all boats. Cumberland County has experienced in recent years what appears to me to be explosive, unprecedented growth. And we ought to be sharing that growth with the folks and the young folks that will be benefited by the social workers, the counselors, and the nurses that this increased funding would benefit. I can tell you that what my request of the commissioners tonight is to fully fund the Board of Education's request to pass a progressive budget that does so. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
There are no further speakers.
There are no further speakers. Thank you so much for attending a public hearing tonight, and we are here to listen to your concerns. All of your concerns will be taken into consideration. We will listen, we will look, we will study. Your comments are important, and I am very happy to see so many people out in support of public education. That's a good thing. My fellow board members are all committed to providing the best possible government that we can provide to the citizens of Cumberland County. We can't speak tonight, but we are here just to listen, only to listen. If there are no questions, and there are none, we are going to congratulate you on your participation. Pray with us and for us as we deliberate, not only today, tonight, but as we deliberate 365 days a year. There is no easy answer to the problems that we face. And I know that Dr. Connolly, wave your hand, Dr. Connolly. Dr. Connolly recognizes that it is hard. Anytime you raise your hand, you are disappointing somebody about something. But we do our very level best. And we consider everything that you say. As an educator, we've got one that's an educator, 3 that were former school board members, 1 whose husband, I'll let you guess who that was a school board member. So we understand you're concerned, and I've been on that side, okay? Have a good night. Rest easy, be safe, and keep us forever in prayer. We need it. Thank you so much. I need a motion. Just a minute, I forgot, honey. I met you at a workshop at Hillsborough, I believe it was. I need to close the public hearing first. To say that I was a little nervous tonight is an understatement. It's a great understatement. I'm going to formally close the public hearing, and then I'm going to call for a motion to adjourn.
So move.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Those in favor?
Unanimous.
The meeting is adjourned.